Hello, Suzanne. Thank you very much for joining me this evening on this research project around women of impact in STEM. And we've had some dealings over the years in various capacities in IT and solving the problems of the world. But I would love to hear from you, firstly, to tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what specific problem does your work solve, and what will that make possible when it's done, when the outcomes are in place?
Oh, wow. Okay, there a couple of big questions. So what do I do? I'm pretty much known for business transformation and having worked in IT and a lot of cutting edge IT stuff early on, right? What I do now with my new company, Ambidio Consulting, is looking at agile ways of working. So how can we push that through an organisation, not to achieve necessarily better performance, but better alignment, certainly to IT, and also probably agile, when it's done really well, is a really good experience for people, for team members, if it's done well. And when it is done well, those people feel valued, and that's, for me, a really important thing. And I think the absolute next thing that we need to focus on in our organisations, if we really value people and we really implement or develop systems and processes, and I'm not talking about leadership, that demonstrates that value, and that's apart from mission statements and all of that, we will really achieve great things. And I've already had the experience of doing that with my lift squads, the lean fixit squads, where part of that methodology is working across an organisation or a couple of organisations to solve problems. But they're usually business problems of some description.
So maybe you could articulate what specific problem would someone bring you into, perhaps someone who's not as au fait with the inner workings of the business transformation and digital transformation world in government and organisations that seems to have been going on forever. And you've been a pioneer in that for some, 2 or 3 decades now.
Yes. So very often, particularly in government, but in a lot of large organisations, there are a lot of people that have a particular expertise that needs to be applied to a solution. And it can very often be an IT solution. So in the banking industry, for example, and I've worked in superannuation and banking and all of those things as well, with IT solutions, there are people that are not on the project team, but you must have their input. And if you don't have their input, the IT project's going to fail. So what I'm talking about with these lean fixit squads is harnessing that knowledge and decision-making power from those people that are spread around the organisation, often very thinly, and very resource shy, and aligning them with the IT outcomes or the development of the IT. And some of the solutions can be around, like I've done before, building a regulatory framework across government. Like, there's a lot of people involved in that. And whilst it doesn't seem like an IT issue, there are regulatory frameworks and a whole bunch of stuff that have to go into the development of those systems, whether they're information technology, processes or policies. Other things are, customer service, all sorts of problems in an organisation where a solution has to happen. And it could be, how do we downsize this area? Same sort of thing, throw it back out there in this structured way that gets people involved, and people feel valued. But what's more, it's aligning them to particularly the IT outcomes or the actual outcomes that sometimes get pushed up the tree.
So what would you say is the key issue here? I'm hearing that there is it communication? I mean, what causes the misalignment? Because it sounds like you're bringing together disparate people from across the organization that perhaps don't often get a say in what's going on. So because big IT projects are notorious for either blowing out cost-wise, or when they're done, the users, don't actually get the productivity benefits, all of the benefits that are sprouted probably by the IT salesperson at the front end. And then you guys come in the delivery end to try to, make the promise of the salesperson true.
Exactly.
So there's that element of expectations, but so what is it, the crux of the problem that you solve?
I think the crux of the problem is, you touched on this a little bit, communication, but it's much more about valuing other opinions and a broader base of stakeholders to get that information, that feedback in a structured way, not just completely bombarded by it. And what that actually does is allows people to have their input, not necessarily in the agile fashion, but they are actually solving problems. So this is very often prior to the IT project even starting. It may be prior to the requirements definition even happening. In some cases, it's when there is a big problem in the IT project and then we've got to try and sort out how to solve it. But it's more about these people identifying a problem, and they can be all sorts of different problems, and they come up with a solution. And then that solution is folded back into the ultimate goal, I guess. But it's more about communication and valuing people. And I think you mentioned sometimes people that you wouldn't expect to be involved. So they're not just multi-purpose teams or cross-functional or all of that sort of stuff. There are people in these teams, and they're only 3 to 5 people in a team. There are people in these teams where I have experts saying to me, "Why have you got that person in there?" Because you know what? They're a customer service person. And they're the ones that you never ask. Or they're an admin person in payroll. Guess what? You never ask them. You just put in a new HR system. And when they start to get that feedback, people look at the solutions differently, completely differently. And then they accept the solutions differently and more readily because they've had a part in it. They've felt like they're on the journey. You also mentioned about, big projects, IT projects fail, and I think 20 years ago it was 75% of them fail. Still it's 75% of them fail. I can tell you I've done lots and lots of big ones and very complex and cutting edge ones. None of mine have ever failed. That's not to say that we haven't gone over the original budget or extended the schedule. We have, but it's all been approved and discussed. So communication.
So what's been the secret to that? Because if I was looking for my next, how am I going to make sure this project succeeds? I would want to hear this kind of conviction I'm hearing in your voice.
So look, you've got to listen to people. You've got to listen to people, and you've got to communicate and then question. They're probably the 3 key things. Listen, communicate, this is what we're going to do, and then not just take the feedback, I'm going to take feedback. No, listen to it and then question. Is this what you mean? Have I heard you say that correctly? All of those core skills that we all learned a long time ago, all gone, disappeared, right? Back to basics.
Are they these soft skills that all the major research reports are saying that the future of work depends on people with flexibility, adaptability, communication skills, emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
But I wondered, did we really learn them in our,
I don't think we did. I mean, I think some of us learnt them, And because I've got those hard skills as well of, you know, the technical project management, and, you know, only last week I said to someone, well, you'd like that in the scope, but it's not in the scope. So I understand how you feel about it, but it's actually not in the scope. So guess what? You can't have it, or you need to pay more, or whatever. So it's got to be a mix.
But therein is the key, that you will draw the hard line of actually not just saying yes to what they might be demanding.
That's
and
right.
expecting and saying, this is what we were sold, right? And this is the whole point about, not just being nice or not being, you know, articulate or looking good. This is about having those hard conversations.
It's like hard love. Do you know what a tough love? Do you know what I mean? And you know, and I had someone get upset last week, and they're not upset at me. And I said to them, this is the consequence of your inaction, because remember, we went through all of this the week before, and I told you you had to have it done. You didn't have it done, or you didn't make the decision. Now, the schedule, your stuff is not going to be delivered for another 6 weeks. Got nothing to do with the software development. It's your inaction that's done it. You know, it's just how it is. It's a fact. How you might deliver that is the soft skill, but it's a fact.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that you will call it as it is.
Yeah,
and you do it with a neutral tone.
Yeah.
But you're firm and you'll hold fast. And you know, and there must be something in you that loves getting in there. And the more complex, the more exciting for you, that other people would be probably too scared to do that work.
Most people are terrified. What I'm really good at is taking large, complex things that are in a big mess, lots of data, lots of stakeholders. Like if you're in a big mess, they used to call me. I try not to do those ones too much anymore, but that's what I'm really good at, because my brain seems very mathematical. It goes ka-chunk, 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 bang, 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 bang. That's the answer. And that might take me 2 weeks of a lot of input, but that's how I work, and that's what I'm really good at. And then I can give people a strategy. And that strategy is very rational, non-emotional. You know, these are the facts. Don't like them? Oh, well.
So was this something were you like this as a kid? Like, were you always the one solving the problems in the playground? You know, like we talk about our superpower. We talk about all this positive, you know, work in your strengths and work as many strengths as you can in a day. But I'm always really curious about where that turning point was for somebody who's clearly made, you know, such a big dent in these big messy projects over many, many years, and is still passionate about it. Like there's still more to do. You know, because you ain't done yet.
It's because of the people. So when I was a kid, I was a weird person, and I'm unfortunately, you know, I'm one of those very high IQ people. So I'm not a super friendly. Like I say to people, if you want me to be nice, you pay me more, and I'll sort of do that.
I'm just writing that down.
Yeah,
pay
me extra to be nice. It's like in the girlfriend way. I think the turning point probably for me was it was early 90s, I think, and there was a big horrible mess that was all over the news. Around a reconciliation. It was a $40 million bank reconciliation for a government entity. And when I went there, the stress, the utter stress on those people's faces, because they had to get the problem solved and they had no clue how to solve it. And I solved that problem of how to get that resolved, right? And then led a team of people who were going, oh, you know, relieved that they had a direction. And that's pretty much what I've done. And then I went to the next one because I was referred. Oh, you know, I've never got a job. I don't get jobs through interview. Nobody wants me. I can't get an interview, cannot get one of those lovely director roles that the 35-year-olds get. I get referred because I'm the one that does the messy, horrible, shitty stuff that, one, nobody else can work out how to do for a start. And secondly, probably no one has the mental toughness to do and the resilience maybe. And, you know, I'm pretty calm.
Yes. Calm. And the desire, the passion to, there is resolve and we're going to find it.
I'm not just going to fix the problem. I'm going to lead you all through the massive fire and get to the other side. Like, if you follow me through that fire, we're going to get there. And we do. And we do again and again. We get there.
But that to me, in today's world, this new normal that nobody knows how to you know, survive in, and how to do life and business when, you know, with social isolation and businesses, you know, caving in and loads of people, hemorrhaging people, you know, out of businesses. But this is the voice of leadership, I believe.
Right. This is leadership.
This is leadership.
That other stuff is not leadership. This is leadership. What you're doing is leadership. It's all, we've dressed up leadership in a pretty bow, and it's crap. Leadership.
So tell me what leadership is not. So this would be really good to hear.
What leadership is not? Leadership is not understanding a process and working through, you know, 12 steps or 12 dimensions or whatever it is, right? It's real. It's lived. I'm not sure whether you can learn to be a leader or you are born one. I've always been a leader. I don't know.
Were you firstborn in your family?
Yes.
Yeah. Often I find that the firstborn somehow takes that mantle. But this is also an interesting perspective, isn't it? Because all the you know, leadership development is still number one investment in major companies and governments. And how long have we been investing in coaching programs and training programs? And again, this is one of the reasons that I'm really keen to you know, work with people like yourself, is because you are doing lived leadership.
Lived leadership.
You know, it's in action. It's finding the problem, solving the problem, leading the team through to the end. So in a way, what I'm hearing, it is a bit of that, of the captain speaking. There has to be a captain speaking.
It's being fearless. You know, like when I had my company Synergy, I never said that I was managing director and you were this or you were that. We worked very collaboratively as a team, and they all had roles. And sometimes it was my role, I was on an engagement, and I had one of my staff managing me, because that my role was reversed. I was still managing director, but on that engagement I was not. So real leadership to me.
So you were the managing director of the business, but in the project you wore the hat of whatever you needed to wear.
And my engagement manager, director of whatever he was, engagement professional services, he would manage me. You know, so he would be saying, what have you done? And that was how we set it up. So my company was a completely different model to most organisations, and I still haven't seen one the same. So what can I bring to your organisation? I can turn it on its head and work through different ways of doing stuff, doing your organisation, doing people, doing technology. But yes, real leadership is about being fearless, is about being caring.
But does that mean not feeling the fear? Because
you feel the fear. Oh my God.
So is that when people say be fearless, I don't know how to turn off that fear. I know when I direct it into action with the, you know, because I've got a vision of where I want to go, then that fear becomes the energy that feeds me. That's how I experience it. But I wonder if different people experience it differently, or how we make meaning of things. Because like you said, yes, we've got to be fearless, but that doesn't mean you don't feel fear. So what's your secret to not having the fear paralyze you? because
Look,
this is what I see, so many people with potential, and then when the fear gets them, they've missed that opportunity, and life is full of opportunities that we need to grab them, or they don't come by again.
Exactly. Now, I've got 3 grandchildren now, and with the COVID stuff and the issues that the world currently has, they are 3 incredibly sensible, confident, well-adjusted adults, right? Really lovely people. They don't have to get paid extra to be nice, right? And I've said to them through this COVID stuff, we who can be strong must now stay strong. We have to stay strong because people are falling along the wayside everywhere you look. And it's now up to us we don't have to step up, we're already there. We just have to keep going, 1 foot in front of the other. And I've had a lot of trauma in my life. And one of the things that I say is don't look back. Don't look back. If I'm going through that fire, I'm going to keep my eye, I say this to people all the time, keep your eye on the prize and just keep moving. And sometimes, that means you have to stop and regroup, but don't look back. Don't go, oh, what if I do?
So who taught you that? Did you have role models? Did you have trailblazers ahead of you, or were you born with this? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, and again, if you haven't looked back, you may not know the answer to that, in the sense there's so much for you to be moving forward toward. But I'm just curious if there is somebody that stands out for you.
Look, the only person, it's not my parents, it was was pretty much dragged up. But my grandfather died when I was 8. And I remember him distinctly as a person who used to spend time with me and talk to me about stuff, all sorts of stuff. And what I learned from him was to be grateful, and every day I'm grateful, for this or that or the other. I don't know where I learnt the toughness from. I think from him. He was a big man, but he was quiet. And when he spoke, everybody just listened, right? And I always said, when I grew up, I wanted to be a father, meaning I wanted to be him. And because when I grew up, girls, you didn't go into IT, like you got married, you had babies. Like maybe you're a school teacher or a nurse, that was it.
But you had babies and you went into IT. How did you manage that one?
Absolutely, yeah, I did that. But I wanted to be a father because I saw in him this person that had influence and was kind and people respected. And that was my aim. That was actually all
kind, influence, to be respected. And he made you feel valued because he gave you time at a critical time in your life. And this is the heart that is underneath that tough persona, that is what is required to get the job done.
To get the job done. And I think, even with the stuff that I've got at the moment, I have seen just in the last couple of months, people who have been completely undervalued in their role, but they're working incredibly hard under, often bosses that are completely incompetent. And the minute you start to listen to these people and go, you're actually doing a fantastic job. You shouldn't have been asked to do that, but let's now work through and give you an action plan and let's get you going. The absolute joy for me is to see that and to see those people, and they will follow me anywhere.
Well, because you also have the sensitivity to see beyond the obvious in what's really going on for them. So I wonder if that's another superpower you have, Susanne, where you get the tough stuff done, but you've got that heart, but that heart is not about the soft, fluffy stuff for no purpose. There's still a purpose. You're very purpose-driven, outcome-driven in your language, in your attitude, but you're also there. We're all in this together. Yeah. So this is this thing called situational leadership that they, are talking about and teaching and so forth. So, I guess, we've got a few more minutes left, and I'd love to draw out if there's anything that comes to mind that you wish you knew at the beginning of your career, if you turn the clock, what you know, something you know now that you wish you knew when you were starting out in your 20s, say?
In my 20s, I had no idea I was going to end up here, none at all. You know, I got married when I was 19 the first time. What did I even know? Like nothing, except that I knew I was very clever. I knew that I was very clever. I knew that I could be anything. That was what I was taught. It didn't matter that I was a female. I was told I could be anything and I could just go and get it. And pretty much that's what I've done. I pretty much knew stuff. You know, like I started my own consulting company because I couldn't get a job because nobody would give me one. I scare people to death, particularly men. And now other women, the younger women, I scare to death. I'm intimidating, blah, 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 right? Okay, fair enough. So start your own company and like I say to people now, and I'll push the nice, pretty ones out, the nice, happy, pretty people that you as a customer would like to feel nice and warm and fuzzy about. And I'll do the hard stuff of growing the company. You know, that's what I can do. And if you get in a real shitty mess, I'll come in and fix it. Charge you a lot of money.
So and this is where again there's this compelling sense of, I know I can get this job done, that just emanates from you without you having to actually say too much.
That's why I don't get a job. Because I cannot
scare the boss man.
No, I can't. I can't answer the questions. You know, they ask, well, what would you do about? Well,
again, this is a values misfit. So you're an obvious values misfit. But I bet when those consulting jobs that do take you on, that they're successful because there's a clear values fit, because you are very clear about what you stand for, what is okay, what's not okay, and what you need to get the job done. So if you were to think about what kind of support you need now to create the next level of success for yourself, the next, I guess, level of impact, because listen, the world needs you. So what kind of support, or what's your strategy, you know, for the next 20 years? Like if you had a magic wand, what would you have in your toolkit now to give you the even more impact than you've had already?
Look, I think there's probably nothing except that I have a few, not demons, but a few ideas about things that I've got to get rid of, right? So I talk, and I've talked to you about this before, about I'm not a girlfriend. So, you know, I just can't do that stuff. And I find that a lot of women that behave as a girlfriend are very successful in, you know, some of the stuff that they do. So I've got a few beliefs that hold me personally back that I've got to dispel. But, you know, other than that, why can't I have a multi-million-dollar company? Well, I can, because I had one before.
But I love that, because you've got the evidence there that will absolutely support the blowout of any beliefs that are in your way at the moment. In fact, I read a quote today somewhere that, you know, look, you know, if you don't have a problem with your current set of, but you know, if your beliefs are giving you what you have today, and if you're okay with that, there's no problem. It's only when we want more, when there's something else undone, right? And that's my passion, is to facilitate people that have the vision to have the impact in the world, and to get past those blocks, and to get past those, like you say, the demons. Because, you know, there was that saying, you know, if you think you can, you can, and if you think you can't, you can. And that is still today our biggest block. And I haven't heard any kind of talk about what's you know, any systemic issues. Like there's a lot of talk about how bad the system is, what's wrong with the outside world. you're
Yeah.
also taking full responsibility for your own performance. And this is also the key to what I want to be able to share with our emerging leaders, the next generation that are coming through. What is that real secret sauce? Not just the stuff you learn in an MBA textbook, or what you might learn. There are leadership development courses and coaches, and there's going to be even more as, you know, companies, you know, spill out their executives, and everyone suddenly dons a coach's hat, because that's the growth industry now.
Right.
But, you know, if we don't have that evidence base to draw from ourselves, the lived experience, and the clarity that around what creates or has created success in the past, what can move us forward, and then also seeing there is always a gap. If there wasn't a gap, we'd have nothing to do.
Yeah, true,
right?
true.
And you know, and I guess if you were to leave a message of inspiration, or you know, to an emerging leader coming up and wanting to get into this, you know, messy, complex world of IT and business transformation, and follow in your footsteps, what would be some closing words of advice you'd have for her?
Probably, I think the most important one in this current environment is that not everyone has to like you. So you don't have to be liked, and you'll do stuff where people won't like you. That's all fine. If you like yourself, that's the most important thing. And I like myself, and you know, I've got a lot of faults, but I like myself. The other thing is to have gratitude. Honestly, having gratitude is the most powerful thing I think that you can have, because when you get down, when you need strength, which is what I do, I go, well, I'm healthy, and I go through this little list of things. I go, well, you know, that's it, right? I've got that. If I've got nothing else, I've got that. And I think probably the third thing is, don't let somebody else determine your success. I had an ex-husband who used to say to me, because my other business failed after 14 years, you're not successful? I said, I am successful. Don't you tell me I'm not. I've got 3 beautiful children. I've got my health. I had that wonderful business for 14 years. And I employed a lot of people that went on to do some great stuff. So don't let somebody else try and determine your success. Do it yourself.
Yeah. And I'm hearing, you know, also be careful who you listen to. And, you know, because, you know, this is also where that, you know, the old saying of the person you're going to be in 5 years' time is very much influenced by the book. Well, it used to be the books we read, and the people we hang around with, but it's now, of course, much more the videos and the podcasts, and but there is a lot to say, you know, who do we, you know, hang around with, and who do we choose to listen to? And this is where there is so much value in mentoring and coaching, but again, within the it's horses for courses, and it's going to be much more specific than simply one size fits all of, you know, go and do this leadership course or that coaching program or this online, that. And you know, nothing really replaces this eyeball to eyeball conversation that, you know, is better when it's over, you know, over dinner or coffee, but, you know, over Zoom, that's kind of the way the world is going right now.
Yeah, but you can change somebody's life in a second. And I don't think you should ever underestimate that impact that you have on someone. Like just smiling at them on a bus or telling them they've done a fantastic job. You can change their life in a second, and that's really important. And that's a lot of my purpose in life is I'm here and I can say the hard stuff, and a lot of people can't, and that's what I do. And if you don't like it, oh well, oh well. I do it because others can't.
Well, and it's required, because
required.
you also see what's on the other side of that.
Yeah.
And I also see that you're able to have those hard conversations and not hold grudges. It's not going to mean that you can't then turn around and, you know, and you know what I mean? And this is where the focus on how we actually action feedback and, you know, take something and work with it and not just give it lip service, and then work in a structured way is also, you know, something that you've spoken a lot about. And the purpose for this is, like, the purpose for that customer service person is the purpose of bringing disparate people together in that initial problem solving process, so they feel part of. You know, you make it sound like common sense. You make it
common
sound
sense. But it's an absolute strength that we all know this, diverse opinions. It's an absolute strength. You will get a much better solution if you have a few different opinions. It's a no-brainer.
Yep. And then we need that that voice of reason and vision and certainty. And you bring a lot of certainty in your persona. And so I think we definitely, I'd love to have another conversation, perhaps, you know, down the track around unpacking that further, because I think there's so many great learnings that we've just touched on tonight. And I've really valued your time and your unabashed authenticity.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. Thank you, Susanne.
Thank you for asking me. Appreciate it. Bye.